Hi everyone, it's me, and today let's escape from reality together! Let's start. DLC.
Dear Team Salvato. Okay, this is gonna be a really long one, so
Hi Team Salvato.
let's just get to it right now. Today, we're talking about Doki Doki Literature Club Plus's main story. The main new information that this update to the game added to the Doki Doki Literature Club lore, its implication for us in our real lives, and all the science behind it. And that is, to put it simply, we're going to answer one single question. Are you, in real life, living inside of a simulation?
Are you, in real life, living inside a simulation?
Are we living in a fictional, virtual reality created by someone else in some hyper-dimensional computer lab? Let's find out! Now, if you're only vaguely aware of Doki Doki Literature Club, or haven't played it in a while, or didn't play the new edition, you may be wondering why it is that I'm even asking this question, but it is actually key to the main story of Doki Doki Literature Club. So, I think, for all of our sakes, we're gonna have to go over a brief summary of the Doki Doki Literature. God, that is such a long title, but I hate saying DDLC. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 syllables. Okay, from now on, we're just gonna call it Doki Doki. Is that all right with you? Because honestly, I don't care.
Okay.
Time for
Doki Doki Literature Club. Not sure if you understand what Doki Doki means. So Doki Doki is Japanese word. So it means
lore. Let's go. Story summary mode activates. Doki Doki is a dating sim where you play as a player playing a dating sim. There's a few characters. Monika, the president of the literature club, There's
Monika and Monika and Monika and Monika and just Monika. Just Monika. Okay, I know it's scary. Anyways, continue.
Ori, the vice president, Yuri, and Natsuki. At first, the game plays as a normal dating sim where you go through all the things, do all the dating sim stuff, pick the best girl, Yuri, try to get to know them, blah, blah, blah. Then, partway through, Sayori does a thing that post-2018 YouTube really doesn't like. So, anyway, a bad thing happens and you restart
Logan Paul.
the game and Sayori is deleted from the game and things start to glitch out all the way to the moon and back. With this second playthrough, Yuri monopolizes the protagonist's time and then, Wow, you know, it's really hard to say what happens in this game on YouTube. Anyway, some hashtag extremely great stuff happens, and it gets revealed that Monika has been behind all these horrible things going on, although...
So, the character was, quote unquote, deleted successfully.
Didn't really do them intentionally. She is aware that she's in a dating sim, and what's more, she has administrative access to all the character data. She's been tweaking character profiles in the background to make them unappealing to the player, you, in order to funnel you into picking her as best girl,
Just Monika.
even though she's actually not supposed to be an official option. But tweaking personalities is a pretty difficult thing to pull off successfully, so these little changes she made people glitch out in extremely unpredictable ways after they scaled up exponentially over time. Kind of like how a little bit of caffeine makes me awesome, but too much makes me want to die. In the end, Monika sets explosives up on the fourth wall and blows it to smithereens, completely rewriting the game so Monika is the only girl left. And it's just you and her in some little pocket reality she cobbled together from spare assets that were just laying around. Eventually, you delete her character profile if you're an utter monster, and the conclusion of the game happens where everyone is back except for Monika. Sayori goes crazy, Monika was actually secretly there the whole time, and she blows everything up. Bam! The game is over. Fast forward a bunch of years to Doki Doki Plus being released, and it's mostly the same game all over again, but with some makes you feel good side stories that are technically not canon. At least they're not canon to the main playthrough of Doki Doki, but it's not the side stories that are interesting to me. It's the rest of the game, the boring stuff on the desktop. Matt's videos did a great job going over the meta stories, the hints of what's going on in various virtual machines, and if you haven't watched those videos yet, you totally should. They absolutely rule.
So, not sure if I understand right. When he mentioned virtual machines, it's an entire world. Just imagine your world is inside a machine, and there is multiple different machines, multiple different worlds, multiple different you. Yes, you. Something like that.
However, are going to be focusing on something a little different, but still relevant. Which means we gotta talk even more about the lore, but just not too much more, though. Monika. Sincerely, Doki Doki Plus takes place within a framing device. The main game is identical to the original, but it's now taking place on a fake computer desktop where you get emails, find notes, and all sorts of clues regarding a company called Metaverse Enterprise Solutions. It's not super obvious what exactly Metaverse does as a whole, but inside Metaverse is a little pocket group, a task force, Team Salvato. All right, is that confirmed canon? Well, they do call themselves Team Salvation at one point, and just, okay, whatever, stay on target. They are the people who, according to the lore at least, made Doki Doki. The thing is, Metaverse and Team Salvato aren't game developers. They're some sort of consulting client solution-based firm that's focused on business-to-business relations. Why do they have a dating sim on their hard drives? Well, that's because they don't. Doki Doki isn't a dating sim, it's a sim. It's a full-blown simulated universe, albeit a very small one, and it's inside of a virtual machine, and so are the little side stories. In fact, the side stories are control groups that are meant to give insight into the main Doki Doki sim, worlds where nobody in them knows they're in a simulation, so they all act normally. This gives the team an idea of what's different between the different sims, especially when they start to do things like give Monika administrative privileges and the awareness that she's in a simulation. And yes, that does basically make Monika Neo from The Matrix.
Not only does they give Monika access to knowledge, but also access to power.
You see, Monika isn't just in a video game, she's in a fully simulated reality. But why? Why do that? And why give her awareness of the fact and power over her world? Well, it's hard to say at first, but if you dig into the game's files and read the emails and notes left to team members of the secretive and possibly illegal Team Salvato, you start to get answers, nestled in between a lot of the narrative clues about secret characters and peeks into VM2. A few specific lines stand out. In emails like Let's Move On, they mention it's unrealistic for someone in real life to be granted a level of elevation even close to Monitor Kernel Access. Monitor Kernel Access being the long name for Monika.
Monitor Kernel Access Monika.
But the other emails are even more elucidating. In staying focused on our goals, they ask questions like, how does granting elevated access to the VM affect a person's values and goals? How is elevated access being weaponized? What actions and values most contribute to the destruction of the universe? And more importantly, how might your observations apply to our universe?
Our own universe.
Meaning they're exploring specifically what happens to people psychologically when they know that they are in a simulation, but more so what happens when they somehow gain power over that simulation. But that final...
Yes, the final thing is, not only do you recognize that you live in a simulation, you recognize that you have the power. You have the power of your universe. You are God. What will you do? You are God in your universe. What will you do? Can you affect other universes? Can you affect the omniverse? Can you do it?
Line, how might your observations apply to our universe, is absolutely key here, because it shows that Team Salvato is trying to take what they learn about simulated realities and apply it to their world. But why? Well, to get to the root of that, we have to leave the realm of emails and enter the realm of secret files, specifically ddlc.txt and projectplan.txt. ddlc.txt is mostly a rough game plan of how to pitch Doki Doki as a video game to the public to justify all the company resources that have been spent on it. They list a lot of marketable selling points, but the most interesting one is the second one. Learn through the existential crisis of others how to cope with your own simulated universe. And in projectplan.txt, which is a more detailed overview of the actual virtual machine project, we have create human readable version of Fabric benchmark results, suggesting we live in a simulated universe. All of these snippets from the notes coupled with the emails, plus the general themes of the game itself, all collate into one simple idea. The team at Metaverse, at the very least, if not Metaverse itself, and possibly the whole world Metaverse is in, suspects or even outright knows that they live in a simulated universe, and they're trying to use their own simulations to figure out if there's anything they can do about this. Why? Who knows? To gain power, make money, that's likely something we'll find out in a future Salvato game, but the truth here is clear. Metaverse and Team Salvato are working under the assumption that they live in a simulated reality. And I guess in a way, they're right. If Doki Doki was considered a simulated world on our hard drives, then this desktop game, which is simulated on our drives and consoles, and in turn is simulating Doki Doki, is a world within our world in which the world of Doki Doki lives. It's mind-bending stuff, but here's a question that springs to mind.
So think about it. I am a god. That means to say that I'm more powerful than your gods. It just triggered down.
What if Doki Doki...
But what if, instead of going down, you go up? What if I'm weaker than your gods?
He is a world within a world within a world within a world. Are we in a simulation? And if we were, could we prove it? Maybe. You wanna try? Me too. Why are questions like this even worth asking? Well, I'll weigh in at the very end with my opinion, but the nature of reality is something that philosophers wrestled with since well before the times of Plato and Aristotle, which was important at the time because philosophy and science were just kind of, they were the same thing at the time, so the nature of what stuff actually is kind of worth considering. Parmenides was probably one of the first major people to ask this question, mainly trying to figure out what something was versus what its qualities were. Fun fact, it's within his work where we get the word substance. You see, you can have a piece of wood, right? And that wood can be hot, it can be cold, it can be wet. These are the qualities of the wood, but they don't make wood wood. Wood is the substance independent from its qualities like temperature. Substance, literally something which stands beneath the properties.
The stance of something, and it is a sub of that stance. Substance.
Substance. And I had a bunch of other cool stuff to put here about the history of thinking we might be living within a simulation, but I'm already short on time, so if you want to read the entire write-up a friend of mine from high school who studied philosophy did, there's a link of his entire diatribe in the description below, and it is super neat stuff. The long and short of it is that philosophers' question for
现实是什么? What is reality? Or you can change it as reality is what?
Hundreds and thousands of years, whether what we're experiencing before us is actually real or some kind of illusion. It started with just wanting to know what the nature of stuff was, but continued on because the question never got adequately answered to anybody's full satisfaction, so each new wave of philosophers has thrown themselves at this question trying to resolve it, each having mixed results. The newest iteration of this theory is the simulation theory, or the simulation hypothesis. But we're not philosophers here, we're armchair scientists. Is there...
Oh, well, technically, simulation theory, simulation hypothesis in the theorist community, But hey, that's just a theory.
Anyway, we can experimentally prove conclusively whether or not we in our real world are living within a simulation or not. That way we can avoid all this pesky thinking stuff and just arrive at a simple yes or no answer. And the answer to that question turns out to be, maybe. In 2017, several scientists published a paper titled On Testing the Simulation Theory. The study operates on one major assumption, that if we are living within a computer simulation, that thing running the simulation has limited resources. This is the main assumption because if the simulation running our world is finite, then it would make sense that it has to cut some corners when it comes to relaying our experiences to us. This means that the content of the simulation, or in this case, reality itself, is rendered only when it's needed, when it's going to be observed by us. It also presumes that detecting the simulation would itself be something that would be a computation performed by the simulation. This is a pretty long paper and I can't get into all of it, so let's fast forward to the test, which sets out to specifically test two things.
So my question is, what do you assume? And what do you mean? What do you mean? Sorry. What do you mean by assume? And what do you mean by us? As in, us, or planet us? A tree can be us. A moon can be us. A solar system can be us. US. Anyways, continue.
Test the moment of rendering the simulation and exploit conflicting requirements of logical consistency, preservation, and detection avoidance to force the virtual reality rendering engine to create discontinuities in its rendering or produce a measurable signature event within our reality that indicates that our reality must be simulated.
That's a very long paragraph. Alright, let's see. Hypothesis test. Two strategies can be followed to test the simulation theory. Number 1, test the moment of rendering. 2, exploit conflicting requirement of logical consistency, preservations, and detections avoidance to force the VR rendering engine to create the discontinuance in its rendering or produce a measurable signature event within our reality that indicates that our reality must be simulated. Our, who do you mean by our? Humans our? Or mammals our? Or the planet our? What if it is the solar system as an our?
Wow! Their main method is to use the which way experiment, which, okay, let's go over that in its most simplistic form. The which way experiment is a variation on the dual slit experiment, which itself is a demonstration of wave-particle duality in quantum mechanics, and it's surprisingly simple. You take a laser, you put it right here. You take a screen, you put that right here. And in between them, you put a big old flat piece of something that's totally opaque, save for two slits cut within it. And then you turn the laser on and bam! You get some science! What you actually get is this weird pattern on the screen. Why does this happen? Well, it's because light is a wave, and as waves travel through narrow gaps, they create new circular waves that ripple out, almost as if they were from a fresh light source. Then these waves will interact with one another as they move forward. When waves hit each other, they kind of do some weird stuff. If a peak hits a peak of the same type, then the waves interact constructively, meaning that their intensities add together. If an opposite peak hits a peak, however, they interact destructively, meaning they zero each other out. This is why you get these alternating dots of high intensity and low intensity. The bright
Moreover, it's very hard to capture it on the camera with different frequency involved.
spots are where two new waves added together constructively, and the dark spots are where they interacted destructively. The light hitting the screen is what's called a wave function collapse. It's a phenomenon in quantum mechanics where, when you measure or observe a particle, aka if it really interacts in any meaningful way with the world around us, that probabilistic position that it was in collapses to a single point, even if only briefly. And it's this phenomenon that researchers in the paper are trying to take advantage of to prove whether or not we live in a simulation. And I'm gonna be honest with you, a lot of this is over my head and above my pay grade, and I don't like to say wrong stuff if I can help it, but in short, the proposed experiment is an attempt to take advantage of the limitations of computational power and logic to force a contradiction between the subjective recording of the which way experiment and the objective recording, depending upon a complicated series of wave function collapse measurement points where something that's meant to show particle patterns upon observation shows a wave pattern, and something that's meant to show a wave pattern shows a particle pattern. Then the simulation server, the game engine, would have to adjust its rendering to the intent of the experiment to avoid creating a paradox, which we would then be able to measure. Phew! So, that's the thing that exists. Does that make sense to you? Doesn't make sense to me. So, would it work? Would it finally prove that we live within a simulation? You know what? Who freaking cares? I'm serious. If we live in a simulation, big if, it's a really, really good one. What fundamentally changes about my life if this is just electronic signals, if I'm just a tiny computer program running on a processor? I can't change it. And this world is certainly real enough to me that it matters. It's real by just about every definition of the word real that we have. It's like Rhea said in her email in Doki Doki Plus. So if I'm keeping track, we have what, like 5 different universes in total, with 3 or 4 of them created and then destroyed by Monika, of course. It's funny, I keep wanting to speculate on which one is the real universe, but in reality, they all are. As real as ours is, anyway. Could I even escape a computer server if I were in one? Doubtful. And why would I want to? This world has coffee and all my friends in it, and given that we can't meaningfully prove either way, I mean, I have serious doubts that we're ever going to be able to find proof of a simulation using wave function collapse experiments. We wouldn't be able to escape even if we did prove it. This world is what we got, and it's just as real as the word real. What's the functional difference between being in some sort of string theory computer server or being in a universe where a big bang happened and a bunch of particles set up the initial conditions of our universe, and the rest of existence is just like everything playing out according to the rules of quantum mechanics? Is this video less real if it was made, written, and recorded in a universe where we're just playing out the logical conclusions of the energy and matter states that were set up during the Big Bang billions of years ago? Or if it's just some computer floating in space? I personally don't think so. Oh, and also, before I go, there was an entire email in the game devoted to arguing about the ethics of the simulated realities and the deletion and mistreatment of Monika and her friends.
But that's the thing, ethics under what understanding? Ethics under the human understanding or ethics under the social understanding? So,
You know, if this video does well and you like it, I have one almost ready that talks about the ethics of how we treat artificial intelligences. So, if you want to see that, just like, watch this video 5 times in a row, like, subscribe, and explain in the comments how...
Yeah, like, subscribe, comment, follow, encourage, support, thank you.
I messed up explaining the double slit experiment.
Share.
Sincerely, Austin.
Sincerely, Austin.
And I have to give a huge shout out to our amazing patrons at Patreon. We have so many new faces this week, and thank you guys so much for supporting the show. And I want to give a personal shout out to our array of high-level donors like Juan Santamaria, Riley Huber, Mars the Man, Mad Lad 616, John Rozak, Greyhawk, Mads Jurgensen, Miss Kendra, Ronald Coleman, Adam Barber, Alan Hagers, Emma Sims, Francis Gagnon, Royal Gaming 16, Edidam TP, Dan Robb, Nicholas Bullinger, Marissa Resnick, Nick Patterson, and Loretta Mazur. If you would like to help our show keep on going, then you can join these people and others at patreon.com/thescienceyt. We just started doing a bunch of live streams again, and it's been a hoot.
True. Rainbow, strawberry, anti-science. Sincerely? Oh, I find the word Austin. There's no word Austin, is it? PT. And there's no word Austin. Physics. Nah, I don't have. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. Yeah, this video is very mind-boggling, thoughtful, mind-blowing. And to be honest, I genuinely like this Earth. this place that we call us, this realm. Yeah, I really like this. This solar system that we live in, this Milky Way that we live in. Yeah, I'm genuinely thankful for it. Even if these simulations, I love it. So hope that you like. Hope that you love this place called the Milky Way galaxy. Hope that you love this place called the universe, because I sure am. I love this place called my home. Thank you. And if you do like this video, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to my channel, and comment down below if you have anything to share with us. Down below if you have anything to share with us. Don't forget to follow my channel, and I sincerely appreciate all of your support and encouragement for me. Thank you so much. Hope to see you in my next video. But hey, that's just the signs. The signs of. Thanks for watching. Thank you. And I'll see you in my next video with what in the oh wait, on high five, high five, high five, high five, high five.